The champagne glass shattered against the marble floor, and everyone in the ballroom turned to stare. Olivia Hartford stood frozen, her emerald dress clinging to her curves as her ex-boyfriend's laughter echoed through the New Year's Eve party at the plaza. She had come to Manhattan to celebrate her new life, her secret marriage, her fresh start. She had not come to be humiliated. Left on the shelf, Liv? Marcus sneered, his arm draped around a blonde half his age. I always knew you'd end up alone, 32 and still searching for your fairy tale. The crowd whispered. Olivia felt heat crawl up her neck. She had walked away from Marcus 18 months ago after discovering he had been sleeping with his personal trainer, his secretary, and apparently anyone else who would have him. She had cried for exactly 1 week. Then she had rebuilt her life brick by brick. She had opened her art gallery in Soho. She had traveled to Italy. And she had married the most dangerous man in New York City. But Marcus did not know that. Nobody knew that. Still pathetic, Marcus continued, his voice carrying across the room. Remember when you used to beg me to marry you? God, that was embarrassing. Olivia's fingers trembled. She wanted to throw her remaining champagne in his face. She wanted to tell him exactly where he could shove his opinions. But before she could open her mouth, she felt it. A presence. Heavy, commanding, electric. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Alessandro Greco moved through the crowd like a predator, his 6'3" frame cutting an imposing figure in his custom black suit. His dark hair was perfectly styled, his jaw sharp enough to cut glass, and his eyes, those impossibly blue eyes that had first captured Olivia's attention in a Florence cathedral 6 months ago, were fixed on Marcus with an intensity that made grown men step back. Olivia's breath caught. They had agreed to keep their marriage quiet. Alessandro had enemies, rivals who would use any weakness against him. She was supposed to be his secret, his treasure, protected by anonymity. He was supposed to be across the room, conducting business with the mayor and the police commissioner, maintaining the illusion that he was just another wealthy businessman. But he had heard everything. I do not believe we have met, Alessandro said, his Italian accent wrapping around each word like silk over steel. He stopped directly beside Olivia, his hand settling possessively on the small of her back. The touch sent shivers racing up her spine, the same way it had every single day since their wedding in a private chapel overlooking Lake Como. Marcus blinked, clearly not expecting the interruption. I'm sorry. Who are you? I am the man wondering why you are speaking to my wife, Alessandro said softly, dangerously. The ballroom went completely silent. Olivia watched Marcus's face drain of color. She watched his girlfriend's eyes widen. She watched every single person within earshot lean closer, desperate to hear more. Your wife? Marcus stammered. Alessandro's hand slid around Olivia's waist, pulling her against his side. She fit there perfectly, the way she always did, like they had been designed for each other. His other hand lifted to her face, his thumb tracing the line of her jaw with such tenderness that her knees went weak. Mia bellezza, he murmured, looking at her like she was the only person in the entire room. You did not tell me you had taken out the trash tonight. I would have worn something less expensive. Despite herself, Olivia laughed. It bubbled up from her chest, genuine and bright, washing away the humiliation that had been choking her moments before. Alessandro smiled, that rare, devastating smile he reserved only for her, and kissed her forehead. Then he turned back to Marcus, and the smile vanished. You will apologize to my wife, Alessandro said. It was not a request. Listen, man, I didn't know. You will apologize, or I will make certain that every door in this city closes to you, every investment opportunity, every social invitation, every chance you have at the life you believe you deserve. He paused, letting the words sink in. Do you understand what I am saying? Marcus's face went from white to red to white again. He clearly wanted to argue. His pride demanded it. But even Marcus was not stupid enough to miss the way people were watching Alessandro with a mixture of respect and fear, the way the mayor had stopped mid-conversation to observe. the way two very large men in dark suits had materialized at the edges of the crowd, waiting. "I'm sorry," Marcus finally muttered, not meeting Olivia's eyes. "Louder," Alessandro said, "and look at her when you speak." Marcus's jaw clenched. "I'm sorry, Olivia. I was out of line." Olivia said nothing. She simply leaned into her husband's warmth and watched her ex-boyfriend squirm. Alessandro nodded once. "Good. Now leave. You are no longer welcome at this party." "You can't kick me out of—" "This is my hotel," Alessandro interrupted. "I bought it last month, so yes, I can, and I am." Marcus opened his mouth, closed it, looked around for support that would not come. Then he grabbed his girlfriend's hand and practically ran for the exit. The moment he was gone, the crowd erupted in whispers. Olivia could feel hundreds of eyes on them, questions forming, gossip being born. She knew their quiet life was over. By morning, every news outlet in New York would be running stories about Alessandro Greco's secret wife. "I am sorry," Alessandro said quietly, turning her to face him fully. His hands cupped her face, his thumbs brushing away tears she had not realized were falling. "I know we agreed to wait, but I could not stand there and let him speak to you that way. I could not pretend you are not mine." "I don't care," Olivia whispered, and she realized it was true. She did not care about the attention or the headlines or the danger. She cared about the man in front of her, the man who had crossed an ocean to be with her, who had promised her forever in 3 languages, who looked at her like she was everything. "I'm glad they know." Alessandro's eyes darkened with an emotion that made her stomach flip. "Dance con me," he said. "Dance with me. There's no music playing. Then I will buy the orchestra." He snapped his fingers, and within seconds, a waltz began to play. Of course it did. Alessandro Greco did not make idle threats or empty promises. If he said he would buy the orchestra, he would buy the orchestra. If he said he would burn down the world for her, she believed he would strike the first match. He pulled her onto the dance floor, one hand at her waist, the other holding hers against his chest. She could feel his heartbeat, strong and steady, matching her own racing pulse. "Do you remember the first time I saw you?" Alessandro asked as they moved together, the world fading away around them. "In Florence," Olivia said, "at the Duomo. You were standing in front of Vasari's fresco, and the light was coming through the dome. You had paint on your hands, blue paint, right here." He touched her wrist, the exact spot where she always got paint when she worked. "And I thought you were the most beautiful thing I had ever seen. You didn't even know me. I knew enough. I knew you were looking at art the way most people look at money. I knew you were alone, but not lonely. I knew I had to speak to you or regret it for the rest of my life." Olivia remembered that day with perfect clarity. She had been in Italy for a solo trip, trying to find inspiration for her gallery's next exhibition. She had been standing in the cathedral, overwhelmed by the beauty of it all, when a voice behind her had said, "Michelangelo would have approved of your dedication." She had turned to find the most striking man she had ever seen. Tall, dark, impossibly handsome, with eyes that seemed to see straight through her. He had been wearing a gray suit that probably cost more than her rent, and he had been looking at her like she was a masterpiece. "You asked me to dinner," Olivia said. "You said no. I said I didn't have dinner with strangers. So I told you my name, my favorite color, my biggest fear, and the name of my first dog. Then I asked again." Olivia smiled at the memory. "And I said yes." "Best decision you ever made," Alessandro said, spinning her. "Second best," Olivia corrected. "The best was saying yes when you proposed." It had been 3 months ago, on a terrace overlooking Lake Como. Alessandro had flown her to Italy for what she thought was a business trip. Instead, he had taken her to the most beautiful villa she had ever seen, filled it with thousands of roses, and asked her to be his wife while the sun set over the water. She had said yes before he even finished the question. They had married 2 days later in a private ceremony with only Alessandro's closest friend as a witness. No press, no crowds, just them, a priest, and promises that Olivia knew he would keep until his last breath. "We should have told people sooner," Alessandro said now, pulling her closer. I have been selfish, keeping you hidden. But the truth is, I did not want to share you, not yet. I understood, Olivia said. You were protecting me. I was protecting myself. Because if something happened to you because of me, because of what I am, I would not survive it. His voice was raw, honest in a way that still surprised her. Alessandro Greco was known throughout New York as a man who did not show weakness. He controlled shipping ports, construction contracts, and half the restaurants in Manhattan. People whispered about his connections, his power, his ruthlessness. But with Olivia, he was different, vulnerable, real. Nothing is going to happen to me, Olivia said firmly. We're going to dance at this party, go home to our penthouse, and start the new year exactly the way we want. Together. Alessandro kissed her then, in front of everyone, deep and claiming and full of promise. When he pulled back, his forehead rested against hers. Ti amo, Olivia Greco, he whispered. More than you will ever know. I love you too, she whispered back. And I do know. I feel it every time you look at me. The song ended, but they did not stop dancing. Around them, other couples had joined the floor, but Olivia barely noticed. She was lost in Alessandro, in the warmth of his arms, in the safety she felt whenever he touched her. Mr. Greco. A voice interrupted them. One of Alessandro's men, a tall guy named James with a scar across his eyebrow. The press is outside. They want a statement. Alessandro sighed. Of course they do. We could leave through the back, Olivia suggested. No. Alessandro's jaw set with determination. No more hiding. If they want a statement, we will give them one. He took Olivia's hand and led her through the ballroom, past the staring guests, past the whispers and the phones recording everything. They walked out the main entrance where a crowd of reporters had already gathered, cameras flashing, questions being shouted. Mr. Greco, is it true you're married? How long have you been together? Who is she? Alessandro raised his hand, and the crowd fell silent. When he spoke, his voice carried authority that made everyone listen. This is my wife, Olivia Greco. We have been married for 3 months, together for 6. She is an artist, a gallery owner, and the love of my life. That is all you need to know. But Mr. Greco, there are rumors about your business. My business is my business, Alessandro cut in smoothly. My wife is my family, and I protect my family above all else. Now, if you will excuse us, I have a new year to celebrate with the most beautiful woman in New York. He guided Olivia to the waiting car, shielding her from the cameras with his body. Once they were inside, the door closed, blocking out the noise and the lights. She let out a breath she had not known she was holding. That was intense, she said. That was nothing, Alessandro replied, reaching for her hand. Tomorrow will be worse. Every newspaper, every website, everyone will want to know about us, about you. Are you ready for that? Olivia looked at their joined hands, at the wedding ring she had been wearing on a chain around her neck for 3 months. Slowly, she pulled it out from beneath her dress and slipped it onto her finger where it belonged. I'm ready, she said. As long as I have you, I'm ready for anything. Alessandro's eyes burned with an intensity that made her breath catch. He pulled her across the seat and into his lap, his hands tangling in her hair as he kissed her with a hunger that never seemed to diminish. Even after 6 months, every kiss felt like the first. Every touch set her on fire. When we get home, he murmured against her lips, I'm going to show you exactly how much I love you. Promises, promises, Olivia teased, even as her heart raced. I never make promises I cannot keep, amore mio. You should know that by now. The car pulled up to their building, a high-rise in Tribeca with views of the Hudson River. Alessandro had bought the entire top floor and turned it into a home that somehow felt both luxurious and warm. As they rode the private elevator up, Olivia caught sight of their reflection in the mirrored walls. They looked good together. Right, like they had been designed to fit. The elevator doors opened directly into their penthouse. Alessandro swept her up into his arms, making her laugh. What are you doing? Carrying my wife over the threshold, he said. I did not get to do it the first time. I will not miss the opportunity now. He carried her through the apartment and into their bedroom, laying her gently on the bed. Then he stood back, just looking at her, his expression so full of love that Olivia felt tears prick her eyes. "What?" she asked softly. "I am just thinking about how my life changed the moment I met you. How empty everything was before, how full it is now." He joined her on the bed, pulling her close. Outside, fireworks began to explode over the city, welcoming the new year. But Olivia barely noticed. She was too focused on the man beside her, on the way his fingers traced patterns on her skin, on the promises in his eyes. "Happy New Year, Mrs. Greco," Alessandro whispered. "Happy New Year, Mr. Greco," she whispered back. And as he kissed her, as his hands began to explore, as the fireworks lit up the sky, Olivia knew that whatever came next, they would face it together. The secret was out. The world knew, and she had never felt more free. But in the morning, when her phone started ringing with unknown numbers and Alessandro's phone buzzed with urgent messages, Olivia would discover that freedom came with a price. Because Alessandro Greco was not just a businessman. He was the head of one of the most powerful families in the city. And now that the world knew about her, everyone would want to know exactly who Olivia Hartford really was, and whether she was strong enough to stand beside a man like him. Olivia woke to sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows and the smell of fresh coffee. For a moment, wrapped in silk sheets that still held Alessandro's warmth, she forgot about the previous night. Then she heard voices in the living room and reality crashed back. She reached for her phone on the nightstand. 43 missed calls, 67 text messages, and when she opened social media, her face was everywhere. Mystery wife of Alessandro Greco revealed. From nobody to Mrs. Mafia, the Olivia Hartford story. Greco's secret marriage, what we know. Her stomach twisted. She scrolled through article after article, each one dissecting her life. They had found her college photos, her gallery opening, even pictures from her relationship with Marcus. One particularly vicious gossip site had posted a side-by-side comparison of her and Alessandro's rumored ex-girlfriends, all models and actresses, with the headline, "Not his usual type." Do not read that garbage. Olivia looked up to find Alessandro standing in the doorway, holding a tray with coffee and pastries. He was already dressed in dark slacks and a white shirt, sleeves rolled up to reveal forearms that still made her mouth go dry. His hair was damp from the shower, and he looked like he had been awake for hours. "How bad is it?" she asked. "Manageable." He set the tray on the bed and sat beside her, taking the phone from her hands. "My lawyers are already handling the worst of it. Anything defamatory will be dealt with. There are photographers outside the building. There are always photographers outside the building. Now they just have a new reason to be annoying." He handed her a cappuccino made exactly the way she liked it. "Drink. You need your strength." "For what?" "For the circus that is about to become our life for the next few weeks." He smiled, but it did not quite reach his eyes. "I'm sorry, Olivia. I knew this would happen eventually, but I had hoped to prepare you better." Olivia took a sip of coffee, letting the warmth settle her nerves. "Tell me about them, the people calling you, the messages. What do they want?" Alessandro's jaw tightened. "Some want to congratulate me. Some want to warn me. Some want to know if you are a liability." "Am I?" "No." His answer was immediate, fierce. "You are my wife. You are my heart. And anyone who has a problem with that can go straight to hell." The intensity in his voice sent shivers down her spine. This was the Alessandro the world feared, the man who commanded respect with a single look. But when he touched her face, his fingers were gentle. "I need to tell you something," he said. "Something I should have explained better before we married." Olivia's chest tightened. "Okay. You know what I do, what my family does. I have been honest about that from the beginning." She nodded. He had told her on their third date, in a restaurant in Rome, his eyes watching her carefully for signs of judgment or fear. He had explained that his grandfather had built an empire that existed in the gray areas of the law, that Alessandro had inherited that empire, and that while he was working to make their businesses legitimate, there were still connections, still obligations, still people who expected things from him. Olivia had listened, asked questions, and then made her choice. She loved him, not despite who he was, but including all of it. The families that control this city have rules, Alessandro continued. One of them is that we keep our personal lives separate from business. Wives, children, they are supposed to be protected, untouchable. But that only works if no one knows who they are. And now everyone knows who I am. Yes, which means you become a target for anyone who wants to hurt me. He took her hand, lacing their fingers together. I have already increased security. James will be with you whenever I cannot be. No one gets near you without going through him first. Alessandro, I can't live in a cage. I am not asking you to. I am asking you to be careful, to trust me when I tell you that there are people in this world who would use you to get to me. His voice dropped. I cannot lose you, Olivia. I will not. She saw the fear in his eyes, real and raw, and her heart ached. This powerful man, this force of nature, was terrified of losing her. The knowledge was humbling and heartbreaking all at once. You won't lose me, she promised, but you have to promise me something too. Anything. Promise you'll tell me the truth, always, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. Alessandro pulled her into his arms, holding her so tight she could barely breathe. I promise. No more secrets. They stayed like that for a long moment, finding comfort in each other's warmth. Then Alessandro's phone buzzed and he sighed. I have to go handle some things. James is outside. He will take you to the gallery if you want to go, or you can stay here and relax. I want to go to work. I have an exhibition opening next week, and I'm not going to hide because some reporters want a story. Pride flashed across Alessandro's face. That is my wife, strong and stubborn. You knew what you were getting into when you married me. I did, and I would do it again every single day. He kissed her, slow and deep until her toes curled. I will see you tonight. We have dinner reservations at Mafia. We're going out? In public? We are. Let them take their pictures. Let them write their stories. I want the world to see that I am not afraid to claim you. After he left, Olivia showered and dressed carefully. She chose a navy dress that was professional but flattering, paired with heels that made her feel powerful. If she was going to face the world as Alessandro Greco's wife, she was going to do it with her head held high. James was waiting by the elevator, exactly as Alessandro had said. He was in his late 30s, built like a tank, with kind eyes that softened when he saw her. Morning, Mrs. Greco. Please, call me Olivia. Can't do that, ma'am. Mr. Greco would have my head. He pressed the elevator button. We'll take the car to your gallery. I've already checked the route, and we'll have 2 additional men in a follow car. Is all this really necessary? James looked at her seriously. Mr. Greco loves you more than anything in this world. That makes you the most valuable thing he has. So yes, it's necessary. The drive to Soho took 20 minutes. When they pulled up to her gallery, there were photographers waiting. James got out first, scanning the street, before opening her door. Stay close to me, he instructed. The moment Olivia stepped onto the sidewalk, cameras started flashing. Questions were shouted from every direction. Mrs. Greco, how does it feel to be married to Alessandro Greco? Did you know about his business when you married him? How did you two meet? James created a barrier with his body, guiding her to the gallery door. Her assistant, Sophie, was already inside, eyes wide. Oh my God, Liv. You're married? To Alessandro Greco? The Alessandro Greco? Olivia managed to smile. Surprise? Surprise? This is insane. When did this happen? How did this happen? Why didn't you tell me? It's a long story. Olivia hung up her coat, trying to find some normalcy in the familiar space. Her gallery was her sanctuary, filled with paintings and sculptures she had carefully curated. Can we just focus on work today, please? Sophie nodded, though her eyes were still sparkling with curiosity. Fine, but you're telling me everything later, and I mean everything. They spent the morning preparing for the exhibition. Olivia lost herself in the work, arranging pieces, adjusting lighting, making notes about which collectors to invite. For a few hours, she almost forgot about the chaos outside. Then her phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Mrs. Greco? A woman's voice, smooth and cold. My name is Victoria Ashford. I'm an old friend of your husband's. I think we should meet. Olivia's grip tightened on the phone. I'm sorry, I know you're busy with your little gallery, but this is important. Let's say Balthazar, tomorrow at noon. I have some things you should know about the man you married. The line went dead. Olivia stared at her phone, her heart pounding. She did not recognize the name Victoria Ashford, but the way the woman had said old friend made it clear she was more than that. An ex-girlfriend? A business associate? Someone from Alessandro's past that he had not mentioned? She thought about calling him immediately, but stopped herself. He had promised no more secrets. If there was something she needed to know about Victoria Ashford, she would ask him tonight at dinner. Face to face. The way married people should handle things. But when evening came and Alessandro picked her up in his black Mercedes, looking devastatingly handsome in a charcoal suit, the name stuck in her throat. He was so happy, so relaxed, telling her about his day and asking about hers. She did not want to ruin the moment with questions about his past. They arrived at Marea, one of the most exclusive restaurants in the city. The maitre d' greeted Alessandro by name and led them to a private corner table with views of Central Park South. Wine? Alessandro asked, reaching for her hand across the table. Just water. I want to remember every moment of tonight. His eyes darkened with pleasure. I like the way you think, Mrs. Greco. They ordered, and as they waited for their food, Alessandro told her stories about growing up in Brooklyn, about his grandmother who had raised him after his parents died, about learning the family business from his uncle. He painted a picture of a life that was complicated but full of love, of loyalty that ran deeper than blood. I want you to meet Nonna, he said. She lives in Tuscany now, retired from the New York winters. I think you two would love each other. I'd like that. Maybe next month we could spend a week at the villa, just us, the vineyards, and Nonna's cooking. Olivia smiled, imagining it. That sounds perfect. Their food arrived, and they ate slowly, savoring each bite and each other's company. Alessandro reached across the table constantly, touching her hand, her wrist, as if he needed the physical connection to believe she was real. I have been thinking, he said as they shared tiramisu for dessert, about what you said this morning. About living in a cage. Alessandro, no, let me finish. You are right. I cannot protect you by locking you away. You have your own life, your own dreams. Your gallery matters. Your independence matters. He paused. So I have a proposal. I want to hire additional security for the gallery itself. Cameras, alarms, someone at the door during business hours. That way you can work in peace, and I can breathe easier knowing you are safe. It was a compromise, and Olivia recognized it as such. Okay, that's fair. And I want you to learn self-defense. Not because I think you will need it, but because I think you would feel better knowing you can protect yourself if necessary. You want to teach me? I want to hire the best instructor in the city to teach you. I would be too distracted watching you in workout clothes. His smile turned wicked, though private lessons at home could be arranged. Olivia laughed, feeling the tension of the day melt away. This was why she had fallen in love with him. Not the power or the money or the intensity, but moments like this, when he made her laugh, when he saw her as an equal, when he loved her enough to let her be herself. They left the restaurant hand in hand, and this time when photographers appeared, Olivia did not flinch. She smiled, leaned into her husband, and let them take their pictures, because she was proud to be Alessandro Greco's wife, and she was done hiding it. But as they drove home, Olivia's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Hope you enjoyed dinner, Mrs. Greco. See you tomorrow at Balthazar. Don't be late. V. Olivia's blood ran cold. How did Victoria Ashford know where they had been tonight? Was she following them, watching them? And what exactly did this woman want? Olivia did not tell Alessandro about Victoria's message. She told herself it was because she did not want to worry him. But the truth was more complicated. Part of her needed to handle this herself, to prove she could navigate the dangerous waters of Alessandro's world without running to him every time something felt wrong. The next morning, she dressed in a crisp white blouse and black pants, armor disguised as elegance. James drove her to Balthazar exactly at noon, his eyes scanning the restaurant entrance with professional precision. "Want me to come in with you, Mrs. Greco?" "No, this is just lunch with a friend." James's expression said he did not believe her, but he nodded. "I'll be right outside. Anything feels wrong, you call me." Olivia walked into the restaurant, her heels clicking against the tile floor. She spotted Victoria immediately. The woman sat at a corner table, blonde hair cascading over her shoulders, wearing a red dress that screamed money and confidence. She was beautiful in that sharp, calculated way that came from excellent genes and better plastic surgeons. "Olivia Hartford," Victoria said, not standing. "Or should I say, Olivia Greco? Please, sit." Olivia remained standing. "What do you want?" "Direct. I like that. Alessandro always did prefer women with backbone." Victoria sipped her martini. "Sit down. I promise I don't bite. Much." Against her better judgment, Olivia sat. A waiter appeared immediately, but she waved him away. "I'll make this quick," Victoria said. "Alessandro and I were together for 2 years. We broke up 6 months ago. Right around the time he met you, actually." Olivia's stomach dropped, but she kept her face neutral. "If you're trying to make me jealous, I'm trying to warn you." Victoria leaned forward. "Do you know why we broke up? He said he couldn't give me what I wanted. Marriage, children, a normal life. He said his world was too dangerous, that he would never put someone he loved at risk by making them his wife." She paused. "And yet here you are, married, public, a target. Maybe he loves me more than he loved you." Victoria's smile turned cruel. "Or maybe you're useful to him in ways I wasn't. Tell me, Olivia, what do you really know about your husband's business?" "I know enough." "Do you know about the shipping containers that came through Port Newark last month? The ones that weren't carrying electronics like the manifests claimed?" Olivia's hands clenched in her lap. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Of course you don't. Because Alessandro keeps his little wife in the dark, playing house in your Tribeca penthouse while he makes deals that would turn your stomach." Victoria finished her martini. "I'm not trying to be cruel. I actually feel sorry for you. You think you married a man who's cleaning up his family's business, but some stains don't wash out, sweetheart." "Are you finished?" "Almost. One more thing." Victoria pulled out her phone and showed Olivia a photograph. It was Alessandro standing outside a warehouse talking to men Olivia did not recognize. The photo was dated 3 days ago. "He told you he had meetings with investors, didn't he? Does that look like investors to you?" Olivia's throat tightened. Alessandro had said he was meeting with people about a real estate deal. She had not questioned it. "Leave him," Victoria said softly, "before you get hurt. Before you become collateral damage in a war you don't even know is happening." Olivia stood, her legs shaking but her voice steady. "Thank you for lunch, but I know my husband, and I know when someone is lying to manipulate me. Whatever game you're playing, I'm not interested." She walked out before Victoria could respond, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might burst. James was at her side immediately. "Everything okay?" "Fine, take me home." But everything was not fine. The photograph haunted her. The questions Victoria had planted grew roots in her mind. By the time they reached the penthouse, Olivia had worked herself into a quiet panic. She found Alessandro in his office, on the phone, speaking rapid Italian. When he saw her, his face lit up. "I have to go," he said into the phone, then ended the call. "Amore, you're home early. Is everything—" "Who is Victoria Ashford?" Alessandro's expression did not change, but something shifted in his eyes. "Where did you hear that name?" "She called me yesterday. We had lunch today. She showed me things, Alessandro. Said things. And I need you to tell me the truth." He was around the desk in 3 strides, reaching for her hands. "What did she say?" "That you were together for 2 years. That you broke up right before you met me. That you told her you would never marry anyone because it was too dangerous. Olivia pulled her hands away. Were you with her when we met? No. The answer was firm, immediate. We broke up 8 months before I met you, not 6. And yes, I told her I would never marry. Because with her, I meant it. With her, marriage felt like a cage. With you, it felt like freedom. She showed me a photo of you, with men who definitely weren't investors. 3 days ago. Alessandro's jaw tightened. What else did she show you? Nothing. But she said you were lying to me about your business, about what you're really doing. Come with me. He took her hand and led her back to his office, to a wall that looked solid but slid open at the press of a button. Behind it was a room Olivia had never seen, filled with monitors, file cabinets, and a massive safe. This is what Victoria wants you to see, Alessandro said. This is the part of my life I have been trying to protect you from. Not because I do not trust you, but because knowledge is dangerous in my world. He opened the safe and pulled out a thick folder. Inside were photographs, documents, legal papers. Those men Victoria photographed? They are FBI agents. I have been working with them for the past year to bring down the Castellanos, a family that has been trying to move into New York and take over territories that do not belong to them. They deal in things I never would. Drugs, human trafficking, weapons that end up in the hands of terrorists. Olivia's hands trembled as she looked through the documents. Everything Alessandro was saying checked out. There were official letters, agreements, protection orders. The shipping containers Victoria mentioned, they were a sting operation. We let the Castellanos think they had a route through our ports. Then the FBI seized everything. 43 people were arrested. He closed the folder. I am not a saint, Olivia. I have done things I am not proud of. But I am trying to build something legitimate, something clean, for us, for the family we might have someday. Why didn't you tell me? Because the fewer people who know, the safer you are, the safer everyone is. He cupped her face. Victoria is bitter. She thought she could change me, make me into someone I am not. When I ended things, she did not take it well, and now she sees you, sees us, and she wants to destroy what we have. How did she know where we were last night? Alessandro's expression darkened. She has been following us. I suspected it, but now I know for certain. I will handle it. What does that mean? It means I will make sure she understands that harassing my wife has consequences. Legal consequences. He added quickly, seeing Olivia's face. I am not going to hurt her, but I will make sure she leaves you alone. Olivia wanted to believe him. Looking into his eyes, seeing the sincerity there, she did believe him. But doubt had been planted, and she hated Victoria for it. I'm sorry, she whispered. I should have come to you first. I should have trusted you. You did trust me. You asked me for the truth, and I gave it to you. He pulled her close, his arms wrapping around her like a shield. No more secrets, remember. If you have questions, ask them. If something worries you, tell me. We are partners, Olivia, in everything. She buried her face in his chest, breathing in the scent of him, letting his warmth chase away the cold Victoria had left behind. I love you, she said. Ti amo, he whispered back. More than my own life. They stood like that for a long time, holding each other in the secret room that represented everything complicated about their life together. Finally, Alessandro pulled back. I have a benefit dinner tonight. I was going to go alone, but I want you with me. Will you come? What kind of benefit? Children's hospital, very boring speeches, very expensive wine, and a lot of people who will want to meet my mysterious wife. He smiled. We can leave early. I know a place that makes the best gelato in the city. We can walk through Central Park, pretend we are normal people on a normal date. That sounds perfect. That evening, Olivia wore a floor-length emerald gown that made Alessandro's eyes go dark with desire. At the benefit, held in a glittering ballroom at the St. Regis, she met doctors and philanthropists and politicians. Everyone wanted to shake Alessandro's hand, and by extension, hers. She was talking to a hospital administrator when she felt it, that prickle on the back of her neck that meant someone was watching. She turned and saw Victoria across the room, wearing the same red dress from lunch, her eyes fixed on Alessandro with an intensity that made Olivia's skin crawl. "Excuse me," Olivia said to the administrator, and made her way to her husband. Alessandro was in conversation with the mayor, but the moment she touched his arm, he turned to her with complete attention. "What is wrong?" "Victoria is here." His eyes swept the room, found her, and his expression turned to ice. "Stay with James. I will be right back." "Alessandro, don't—" But he was already moving, crossing the ballroom with purpose. Olivia watched as he approached Victoria, as he leaned close and said something that made all the color drain from her face. Whatever he said, it worked. Victoria grabbed her purse and practically ran for the exit. Alessandro returned to Olivia's side, his hand settling possessively on her waist. "What did you say to her?" "I reminded her that stalking is a crime, and that I have very good lawyers who would be happy to prove it in court." He kissed her temple. "She will not bother you again." "How can you be sure?" "Because I also told her that if she came near you one more time, I would make sure every door in this city closed to her. Every gallery that might show her photography, every magazine that might publish her work, every social circle she values." His voice was calm, matter of fact. "Victoria cares about her career more than she ever cared about me. She will not risk it." It should have bothered Olivia, the casual way he wielded his power. But instead, she felt safe, protected, cherished. "Dance with me," she said. They moved onto the floor as a string quartet played, and for the second time in 2 days they danced in front of everyone. But this time there were no secrets between them, no photographs to haunt them, just the two of them moving together like they had been doing it for years. "When we get home," Alessandro murmured in her ear, "I am going to make love to my wife until she forgets Victoria Ashford ever existed." "Is that a promise, Mr. Greco?" "It is a guarantee, Mrs. Greco." And hours later, tangled in silk sheets with Alessandro's hands mapping every inch of her skin, Olivia did forget. She forgot everything except the way he whispered her name, the way he touched her like she was precious, the way he loved her with his entire being. But the next morning, when she checked her email, there was a message from an unknown address. No subject line, just a single sentence that made her blood run cold. "Ask your husband about the fire in Red Hook. Ask him what really happened to the Castellano shipment. A friend." Olivia stared at the email until the words blurred. Her finger hovered over the delete button, but she could not press it. The message burned in her mind like a brand. "Ask your husband about the fire in Red Hook." She heard Alessandro's voice from the kitchen, talking on the phone in Italian, his tone easy and relaxed. She could smell coffee brewing, could picture him standing by the espresso machine in his pajama pants and nothing else, the morning light catching the defined muscles of his back. 24 hours ago, she would have walked in there and asked him directly. But Victoria had planted seeds of doubt, and now this email was watering them. What if Alessandro was not telling her everything? What if the FBI cooperation was just part of the story? What if she had married a man she did not truly know? She deleted the email and closed her laptop harder than necessary. "Everything okay?" Alessandro appeared in the bedroom doorway, 2 cups of coffee in his hands. His hair was messy from sleep, his eyes soft with concern. "Fine, just deleting spam." He studied her face for a moment too long, and she knew he did not believe her. But he handed her the coffee anyway, kissing her forehead. "I have meetings all day. James will take you wherever you need to go." "I can take a cab, Alessandro. I don't need a bodyguard to go to my own gallery. Humor me. After Victoria, I am not taking chances." "Victoria is gone. You said so yourself." "I said she would not bother you again. That does not mean I trust her, or anyone else who might want to hurt you to get to me." His voice was gentle but firm. "Please, amore." "For my peace of mind." Olivia wanted to argue, wanted to push back against the cage that seemed to be tightening around her. But the worry in his eyes stopped her. "Fine, but just for this week. Then we revisit the arrangement." Alessandro smiled. "Fair enough. Now drink your coffee before it gets cold. And tonight, I am taking you somewhere special." "Where?" "If I tell you, it will not be a surprise." After he left for his meetings, Olivia tried to focus on work. She went to the gallery, smiled at Sophie's excited chatter about the upcoming exhibition, reviewed the final list of collectors who had confirmed their attendance. But her mind kept drifting to that email. "Ask your husband about the fire." Finally, during her lunch break, she did what she had been avoiding. She searched for news about fires in Red Hook. The results made her stomach drop. 3 weeks ago, a warehouse fire in Red Hook had killed 2 people. The official report said it was an electrical malfunction, but several news outlets had raised questions. The warehouse was owned by a shell company with ties to the Castellano family. Witnesses reported seeing multiple vehicles leaving the scene minutes before the fire started, and the 2 victims were known associates of the Castellanos. Olivia's hand shook as she read. Was Alessandro involved in this? Had he ordered it? The FBI documents he had shown her were real. She was certain of that. But what if he was playing both sides? What if he was using the FBI while also handling problems his own way? "Liv, you okay? You look pale." Sophie stood in the doorway of Olivia's office, concern written across her face. "I'm fine, just a headache." "You've been stressed since the wedding news broke. Maybe you should take the afternoon off, get some rest." Olivia shook her head. "I have too much to do before the exhibition." But she could not concentrate. By the time James drove her home that evening, doubt had carved out a hollow space in her chest. She loved Alessandro with everything she had, but love did not mean blind trust. Love meant asking hard questions, even when she was terrified of the answers. She found him in the living room, staring out at the city lights, a glass of whiskey in his hand. He had changed into jeans and a black sweater, and he looked tired in a way she had never seen before. "Bad day?" she asked softly. He turned and his face transformed when he saw her. "Better now that you are home. Give me 5 minutes to finish something. Then we leave for our surprise." "Alessandro, wait. I need to ask you something." His expression shifted, became guarded. "What is it?" "The fire in Red Hook, 3 weeks ago. Were you involved?" The silence that followed felt like it lasted forever. Alessandro set down his glass very carefully, his movements controlled. "Where did you hear about that?" "I got an email this morning, anonymous. It told me to ask you about it. And instead of coming to me immediately, you researched it yourself. You let someone else's poison work on you all day." His voice was calm, but she heard the hurt underneath. "I'm asking you now. Were you involved?" Alessandro walked to the window, his back to her. When he spoke, his voice was low and measured. The warehouse belonged to the Castellanos. They were using it to store weapons before distribution. The FBI had been building a case, but it was taking too long. The Castellanos were getting bolder, moving into neighborhoods where families live. He paused. "The fire was electrical, old wiring, dangerous conditions. I had nothing to do with it. But I would be lying if I said I was sorry it happened." "That's all? You had nothing to do with it?" He turned to face her. "I gave the FBI information about what was being stored there. I pushed them to move faster. But the fire itself? That was not me. Sometimes karma does the work for us." Olivia searched his face, looking for any sign of deception. She found only honesty and exhaustion. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I should have come to you first. I should have trusted you." "No." Alessandro crossed to her, taking her hands. "You did exactly what you should have done. You asked questions. You wanted the truth. That is not a failing, amore. That is strength. But I let someone get in my head. I let them make me doubt you. And I have not made it easy for you to trust me completely. My world is complicated. There are things I cannot tell you because they are not mine to share. FBI operations, ongoing investigations, other people's secrets." He cupped her face. "But I will never lie to you. If I cannot answer something, I will tell you I cannot answer. Fair?" "Fair." She leaned into his touch. Who do you think is sending these emails? I have people looking into it. My guess is someone connected to the Castellanos, trying to drive a wedge between us. If they can make you doubt me, make you leave me, I become vulnerable. Easier to manipulate. That's not going to happen. Good, because I have plans for us that require you to stay married to me for at least the next 60 years. Olivia smiled despite herself. Only 60? I am being conservative. Now, are you ready for your surprise? After all that, you still want to go out? Especially after all that. Come on. He drove them himself, which was rare. They headed downtown, and Olivia tried to guess their destination, but Alessandro just smiled mysteriously. Finally, they pulled up to a building in the meatpacking district. It looked ordinary from the outside, but when Alessandro led her through a side door and up a flight of stairs, she gasped. The entire floor had been transformed into an artist's studio. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the Hudson River. There were easels, canvases, every type of paint and brush she could imagine. Natural light flooded the space, and professional lighting hung from the exposed beams for night work. What is this? Olivia whispered. It is yours. I bought the building last month. This floor is your private studio. A place where you can create without worrying about gallery hours or clients or anything else. Just you and your art. Olivia walked through the space, touching the easels, the pristine canvases. She had not painted seriously in years, too busy running the gallery. But this was everything she had dreamed of. Alessandro, this is too much. It is not enough. Nothing will ever be enough to show you how much you mean to me. He came up behind her, his arms wrapping around her waist. I know my life is complicated. I know I ask you to accept things that are difficult. But I want you to have this. A space that is completely yours, where you can breathe. Olivia turned in his arms, tears spilling over. I love you. So much. I love you too. Even when you are stubborn and independent and make me crazy with worry. She laughed through her tears. We're quite a pair. We are perfect, he corrected, kissing her until she believed it. They explored the studio together, Alessandro pointing out features he had specifically requested. A corner with comfortable chairs for when she needed to step back and observe her work. A small kitchen area with a wine fridge. A sound system wired throughout. He had thought of everything. When did you have time to do all this? I have been planning it since the day you showed me your old sketches, the ones you keep hidden in the back of your closet. He smiled at her surprised expression. You are brilliant, Olivia. Your gallery showcases other artists beautifully, but the world deserves to see your work too. I haven't painted in so long, I don't know if I remember how. Then we will learn together. I will sit right here and watch you create, and when you get frustrated, I will remind you how talented you are until you believe it. They stayed in the studio for hours, Alessandro sitting in one of the chairs while Olivia explored the materials, her fingers itching to create for the first time in years. He told her stories about his grandmother, about growing up in Brooklyn, about the first time he realized his family's business was different from other people's. I was 8, he said. I came home from school and there were men in our living room. They were speaking in low voices and my grandmother sent me to my room. But I listened from the stairs. They were talking about territories, about respect, about what happens when people do not pay what they owe. He paused. I asked my grandmother about it later. She told me that our family protected people, that we made sure the neighborhood was safe, and in my child's mind, that made us heroes. When did you realize it was more complicated than that? When I was 15. I saw my uncle hurt someone, really hurt them. And I understood that protection came with a price, that safety for some meant fear for others. His eyes met hers. That is when I decided I would be different. I would take over the business one day, but I would change it, make it legitimate. It has taken me 20 years, but I'm getting there. How much longer? 2 more years, maybe 3. I have deals in place, investments that are completely legal. Real estate, restaurants, import businesses that actually import what the paperwork says. Once those are stable, Once I can walk away from the other things without leaving a power vacuum that someone worse would fill, I am done. And then what? Then we buy a villa in Tuscany. We make wine. We fill the house with children and laughter. We grow old together watching sunsets over vineyards. He stood and crossed to her, pulling her into his arms. That is my dream, Olivia. A simple life with you. No more secrets. No more danger. Just us. That sounds perfect. He kissed her, slow and deep, pouring everything he could not say into the touch. When they finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, his eyes were dark with desire. Take me home, Alessandro. With pleasure, Mrs. Greco. The drive back to their penthouse was charged with anticipation. Alessandro's hand rested on her thigh, his thumb tracing small circles that made her squirm. By the time they reached their building, Olivia was ready to combust. They barely made it through the door before they were pulling at each other's clothes, desperate for connection. Alessandro lifted her against the wall, his mouth on her neck, her hands in his hair. They made love right there in the entryway, frantic and passionate, both of them needing to feel alive after the tension of the day. Later, tangled in bed with Alessandro's heartbeat steady beneath her ear, Olivia felt more at peace than she had in days. The doubts were gone. The fears had quieted. This was her husband, her partner, the man she had chosen, and she would fight for him, for them, with everything she had. But her phone buzzed on the nightstand, and when she glanced at it, ice flooded her veins. Enjoyed the show at the studio. The cameras caught everything. Sweet dreams, Mrs. Greco. A friend. Someone had been watching them. Someone had cameras in her studio, and they wanted her to know it. Olivia's scream brought Alessandro upright in bed instantly, his hand already reaching for the gun he kept in the nightstand drawer. His eyes were sharp, focused, scanning for threats. What happened? What is wrong? Olivia's hands shook as she showed him the message. She watched his face transform from concern to fury in less than a second. He grabbed his phone and made a call, his voice cold and clipped. Get to the meatpacking studio. Now. Someone installed cameras. I want them found, and I want to know who put them there. He paused, listening. I do not care what time it is. Move. He ended the call and pulled Olivia into his arms, his hands running through her hair. She could feel the tension radiating from his body, could hear his heart pounding against her cheek. I am so sorry, he whispered. I had the building swept before I gave it to you. I do not understand how this happened. They were watching us, Alessandro. They saw everything. I know. And I am going to find them. I am going to make sure they never come near you again. How? How are you going to find them when they're always one step ahead? Alessandro pulled back to look at her, his jaw set with determination. Because I am done playing defense. Tomorrow, we are going to Italy. We are going to stay at my family's villa where I can control every single entrance, every single person who comes near you, and while we are there, my people here will tear this city apart until they find whoever is doing this. Run away? That's your solution? Not run away. Strategic retreat. The villa is the safest place I know. High walls, security that has been in place for generations, and my grandmother who terrifies even the most dangerous men I know. He managed a small smile. Besides, I want you to meet her. I want her to see the woman who made me believe in love again. Olivia wanted to argue, wanted to insist they stay and fight. But the fear in Alessandro's eyes stopped her. He needed this. He needed to know she was somewhere safe while he handled the threat. Okay, when do we leave? Tonight. I will have everything arranged within the hour. Alessandro, it's 2 a.m. I own a plane, amore. It leaves when I say it leaves. Within 90 minutes, they were in a car heading to Teterboro Airport. Olivia had thrown clothes into a suitcase while Alessandro made call after call, his voice switching between English and Italian as he coordinated their departure. James sat in the front seat, his eyes constantly scanning their surroundings. The private jet was waiting on the tarmac, sleek and luxurious. As they boarded, Olivia felt the weight of the past few days crash over her. She was exhausted, emotionally drained, and terrified in ways she had not allowed herself to acknowledge. Alessandro settled her into one of the cream leather seats, and wrapped a blanket around her shoulders. Sleep. We have a long flight ahead. I don't think I can sleep. Then let me hold you while you try. He sat beside her, pulling her against his chest. The plane took off, leaving New York and its dangers behind. And despite everything, Olivia felt her eyes growing heavy. Alessandro's heartbeat was steady beneath her ear, his fingers stroking her hair in a soothing rhythm. "Tell me about your grandmother," she murmured. "Nonna Rosa. She is a force of nature, barely 5 feet tall, but she commands a room like a general. She raised me after my parents died, taught me everything I know about loyalty and family." His voice was warm with affection. "She is going to love you, and she is going to have 1,000 questions." "What kind of questions?" "When are we giving her great-grandchildren? Why did we wait so long to visit? Do you know how to make proper pasta?" He chuckled. "She has very specific opinions about everything. I'm terrible at making pasta." "Then you will learn. Nonna considers it a fundamental life skill, right up there with breathing." Olivia smiled despite herself. "What if she doesn't like me?" "Impossible. You are brilliant and beautiful, and you make me happy. That is all she has ever wanted for me." He kissed the top of her head. "Besides, she already knows about you. I told her the day after we got married. She cried. Happy tears, she said, because she thought I would end up alone. Why would she think that? Because for a long time I believed I would. My life, my responsibilities, they did not leave room for love, or so I thought." His arms tightened around her. "Then I saw you in Florence, and everything changed. Suddenly, I could imagine a future that did not involve dying alone in some sterile penthouse. I could imagine Sunday dinners and lazy mornings and growing old with someone who actually knew me. I do know you, and I love every part. Even the parts that come with anonymous threatening messages and security cameras, especially those parts, because they show me how much you care, how hard you're trying to keep everyone safe." She tilted her head to look at him. "But Alessandro, you can't protect me from everything. At some point, you have to trust that I'm strong enough to handle whatever comes." "I do trust you. I trust your strength, your intelligence, your courage. What I do not trust is the world to be kind to you, and that terrifies me." They talked until Olivia finally drifted off, Alessandro's voice a low rumble in the quiet cabin. When she woke, sunlight was streaming through the windows, and the pilot was announcing their descent into Florence. A car was waiting for them at the airport, a vintage Alfa Romeo that made Olivia smile. Alessandro drove himself this time, taking narrow roads that wound through the Tuscan countryside. Rolling hills covered in vineyards stretched as far as she could see, punctuated by ancient stone farmhouses and cypress trees. "It's beautiful," Olivia breathed. "Wait until you see the villa." They drove for another 30 minutes, climbing higher into the hills. Finally, they turned onto a private road lined with olive trees. At the end stood a massive stone villa, 3 stories of weathered beauty with terracotta roof tiles and green shutters. Gardens surrounded it, bursting with flowers and herbs, and behind it, rows of grapevines marched across the hillside. "This is where you grew up?" "Summers, yes. And after my parents died, this became home. My grandmother refused to leave Italy, so I split my time between here and Brooklyn." He pulled the car to a stop in the circular drive. "Come on. Nonna will have heard the car. She is probably already planning what to feed us." The front door opened before they reached it, and a tiny woman appeared. She had snow-white hair pulled into a bun, sharp dark eyes, and a face that held both warmth and authority. She wore a simple black dress and an apron dusted with flour. "Alessandro!" She threw her arms around him, speaking rapid Italian that Olivia could not follow. Then she turned those sharp eyes on Olivia, and for a moment, Olivia felt like she was being measured and weighed. Then Nonna Rosa smiled, and her whole face transformed. "Bella, finally, I meet the woman who captured my grandson's impossible heart." She pulled Olivia into a hug that smelled like bread and rosemary. Come inside. You must be starving after the flight." The villa's interior was exactly what Olivia had imagined. Terracotta floors, exposed wooden beams, walls painted in warm yellows and creams. antique furniture mixed with comfortable modern pieces, and everywhere she looked, there were photographs. Family photos spanning generations, showing the history of the Greco family in images. Nonna Rosa led them to a massive kitchen where a feast was already spread across the table. Fresh bread, cheeses, cured meats, olives, tomatoes that looked like they had just been picked. And in the center, a pot of something that smelled absolutely incredible. Sit, sit. You eat first, then we talk. Nonna Rosa began filling plates with the efficiency of someone who had been feeding people her entire life. They ate, and Olivia realized she had not had a proper meal in days. The stress had stolen her appetite, but Nonna Rosa's cooking brought it roaring back. Everything was perfect, flavored with herbs from the garden and love that had been cooking for decades. So, Nonna Rosa said when they had finished, her eyes fixed on Olivia. You married my Alessandro in secret. Why? Olivia glanced at Alessandro, who was watching the exchange with amusement. He was not going to help her. We wanted something private, just for us, before the world got involved. And now the world is involved, yes? I see the news. I see the headlines. Mafia boss's secret wife. Nonna Rosa shook her head. They make it sound so dramatic. It feels pretty dramatic sometimes. Of course it does. You married a Greco. We do not do anything small. She reached across the table and took Olivia's hand. But you love him. I can see it in the way you look at him. And he loves you. I have never seen him like this. Soft, happy, real. I do love him. More than I knew was possible. Good, then you will be fine. Love can survive anything. Even the Greco family business. She stood, gathering plates. Now, Alessandro, take your wife upstairs and let her rest. She looks exhausted. And you come help me in the garden. We need to talk. Alessandro kissed Olivia's forehead. Nonna wants to interrogate me about you. This could take a while. What's she going to ask? Everything. When we are having children, why I did not bring you sooner, whether I am treating you properly. He grinned. Do not worry. I will pass her test. He led Olivia upstairs to a bedroom with windows overlooking the vineyards. The bed was huge, covered in white linens that looked soft as clouds. French doors opened onto a small balcony where she could see the entire valley spread out below. This was my room when I was young, Alessandro said. I used to sit on that balcony and plan my escape from the family business. I wanted to be an architect. Can you believe that? I wanted to design buildings, create something beautiful and permanent. It's not too late. Maybe not. Maybe when I step away from everything else, I can take some classes. Design our house in Tuscany exactly the way we want it. He pulled her close. Would you like that? Building something together? I would love that. He kissed her, tender and sweet, then reluctantly pulled away. I need to go face Nonna's inquisition. You rest. I will wake you for dinner. After he left, Olivia explored the room, finding traces of Alessandro's childhood in every corner. Books in Italian, a few in English, photographs of him at various ages, always serious, always watchful, a small wooden box on the dresser that held an old watch, some coins, and a faded photograph of a couple she assumed were his parents. She lay down on the bed, intending to rest for just a few minutes. But the combination of exhaustion, stress, and the gentle Tuscan breeze through the open window pulled her into a deep sleep. She woke to Alessandro's hand gently shaking her shoulder. The sun was setting, painting the room in shades of orange and gold. Time for dinner, sleepy one. Nonna has been cooking all afternoon. How long was I asleep? 4 hours. I checked on you twice, but you were completely out. He helped her sit up, brushing hair from her face. You needed it. Dinner was another feast, served on the terrace as the sun dipped below the hills. Nonna Rosa had invited cousins, aunts, uncles, and family friends. Olivia was introduced to what felt like dozens of people, all of them warm and welcoming, all of them curious about the American woman who had married Alessandro. They love you, Alessandro whispered in her ear as his cousin Antonio told a story that had everyone laughing. I can tell. How can you tell? Because they are treating you like family, not like a guest. Big difference. As the night wore on and wine flowed freely, Olivia found herself relaxing in a way she had not in weeks. This was Alessandro's world, the part he had been protecting for so long, and it was beautiful, full of love and laughter and connection. Nonna Rosa raised her glass, her voice cutting through the chatter. A toast to my grandson and his beautiful bride. May your love grow stronger with each passing year, and may you give me many great-grandchildren to spoil. Everyone laughed and raised their glasses. Alessandro's hand found Olivia's under the table, squeezing gently. Later, after the guests had left and they were alone in their room, Alessandro pulled her onto the balcony. The stars were brilliant in the dark sky, millions of them scattered like diamonds. Thank you for coming here, he said softly, for meeting my family, for letting them love you. They're wonderful. Your grandmother is amazing. She told me I chose well, that you have strength and grace, and that you will keep me humble. He chuckled. She is not wrong. What else did she say during your garden interrogation? That I should retire from the business immediately, move back to Italy, and focus on making her great-grandchildren. He turned to face her, his expression serious. She also said that if anything happened to you because of my choices, she would never forgive me. And honestly, neither would I. Nothing is going to happen to me. I am going to make sure of that. While we are here, my people in New York are going to find whoever is threatening us. And then I am going to end this. All of it, the business, the obligations, everything that puts you at risk. Alessandro, you don't have to. I do, because I realized something today, watching you with my family. This is what I want. This life, this peace, this love. And I cannot have it while I am still tied to New York, still playing games with dangerous people. He cupped her face. I am choosing you, Olivia. I am choosing us. Everything else can burn. She kissed him, pouring all her love and fear and hope into the touch. They made love under the stars, slow and tender, reconnecting in a way that felt sacred. And for the first time since the threats began, Olivia allowed herself to hope that maybe, just maybe, they were going to make it through this. But the next morning, Alessandro's phone rang before dawn. She heard his voice, sharp and angry, speaking Italian too quickly for her to follow. When he ended the call, his face was pale. What happened? Someone burned down your gallery last night. Everything is gone. Olivia felt the room tilt. Her gallery, her dream. Everything she had built over the past 5 years, reduced to ash while she slept peacefully in Tuscany. How bad? Her voice sounded distant, like it belonged to someone else. Alessandro was already pulling on clothes, his movements sharp and controlled. Total loss. The fire department responded quickly, but it was accelerant-based. Professional. They wanted to send a message. The exhibition. All those artists who trusted me with their work. Olivia's hands shook as she reached for her phone. 60 messages, 30 missed calls. Sophie's name appeared over and over. I need to call Sophie. I need to. I already spoke to her. She is safe. She was not there when it happened. Alessandro crossed to her, taking her shoulders. Everyone is safe, Olivia. That is what matters. That is not what matters. Those paintings, those sculptures, they were irreplaceable. Artists poured their hearts into that work, and now it's gone because someone wants to hurt you through me. The words hung between them, sharp and accusatory. Alessandro's face tightened, but he did not flinch. You are right. This is my fault. My life, my choices, they destroyed your dream, and I am sorrier than you will ever know. Olivia wanted to take the words back, wanted to tell him she did not mean it. But she did mean it. She was angry and hurt and terrified, and he was the only person she could direct those feelings toward. I need to go back to New York. Absolutely not. It is too dangerous. It's my gallery, Alessandro, my responsibility. Those artists deserve to hear from me, not from my assistant or some insurance adjuster. And they will hear from you. From here. You can call them, video chat, whatever you need. But I am not letting you walk back into a war zone. Letting me? Olivia's voice rose. You don't get to let me do anything. I'm not your property. I'm your wife. There's a difference. I know the difference. And as your husband, I am begging you to stay here where you are safe while I handle this. Handle it how? By doing what you always do? Making decisions without me? Keeping me in the dark for my own protection? This is not the time for this argument. Then when is the time, Alessandro? When they burn down something else? When they hurt someone I care about? When exactly do I get a say in my own life? She pushed past him, grabbing her phone and heading for the balcony. She needed air, needed space, needed to think without his presence overwhelming her. Behind her, she heard Alessandro punch the wall, heard something break. Olivia called Sophie, her hands still shaking. Her assistant answered on the first ring, her voice thick with tears. Liv, I'm so sorry. I should have been there. I should have... This is not your fault. Tell me what happened. Sophie explained through sobs. The fire had started around midnight. By the time the fire department arrived, the entire ground floor was engulfed. The sprinkler system had failed, almost like it had been disabled. The investigators were calling it arson, but they had no suspects yet. All the pieces for the exhibition, Sophie said. The Harrington landscapes, the Chen sculptures, everything. Gone. Olivia closed her eyes against the tears threatening to spill. What about the artists? Have they been notified? I've been calling everyone. They're devastated, but they're more worried about you. Everyone knows about your marriage now, about Alessandro. They're saying this was targeted. It was. Liv, what's going on? What have you gotten yourself into? I married a complicated man with a complicated past, and now people are using me to hurt him. Olivia's voice cracked. I'm coming home. I need to handle this in person. Are you sure that's safe? I don't care about safe anymore. I care about doing what's right. After ending the call, Olivia stood on the balcony, watching the sun rise over the vineyards. This should have been paradise. Instead, it felt like a beautiful cage. Olivia. Alessandro's voice was soft behind her. Please look at me. She turned. His knuckles were bleeding from where he had hit the wall. His eyes were raw with an emotion she had never seen before. Fear. I cannot lose you, he said simply. I know you are angry. I know you feel trapped. But if something happened to you, if they hurt you because I was not careful enough, I would not survive it. Do you understand? I would not survive it. Then help me understand what we're fighting. Stop protecting me from information and start treating me like your partner. Alessandro took a deep breath. The Castellanos are behind this. I am certain of it. They have been trying to establish themselves in New York for 2 years, and I have been blocking them at every turn. The warehouse fire was the last straw. They want revenge, and they found the perfect target. Me. You. But also your gallery, your independence, your identity outside of being my wife. They want to isolate you, make you dependent on me for everything. Classic intimidation tactic. So what do? We finish this. I have been trying to handle the Castellanos carefully through legal channels and FBI cooperation, but they do not play by those rules. So I am going to stop playing by them too. What does that mean? It means I am going to use every resource I have, every connection, every favor owed to make sure the Castellanos understand that touching you was the biggest mistake they ever made. His voice was cold, dangerous, and then I am going to walk away from all of it. The business, the obligations, the life that brought them into our world in the first place. Alessandro, you don't have to. I do. Nonna was right. I cannot keep one foot in that world and expect our life together to be safe. I need to choose, and I choose you. I choose us. He took her hands. But first I need to end this threat. Permanently. How long will that take? A week, maybe 2. I am bringing in people from the old families, the ones who remember when the Castellanos were nothing. I am calling in favors, making deals. By the time I am finished, the Castellanos will either be in prison or run out of the city. Either way, they will never touch you again. Olivia studied his face, seeing the determination there. This was Alessandro Greco at his most dangerous, and she should have been frightened. Instead, she felt safer than she had in days. I want to help. Absolutely not. You said we're partners, so let me be your partner. I can reach out to the artists, start rebuilding relationships. I can work with the insurance company, document everything that was lost. I can be visible, show the Castellanos that they didn't break me. Alessandro looked like he wanted to argue, but slowly he nodded. From here. You do all of that from here, where I know you are protected. Fine, but I need you to promise me something. Anything. Promise you won't do anything that will land you in prison or get you killed, because I didn't marry you to become a widow. A ghost of a smile crossed his face. I promise. Everything I do will be legal, or at least untraceable. That's not as reassuring as you think it is. Over the next 3 days, Olivia threw herself into salvaging what she could. She video called artists, insurance adjusters, and potential investors for rebuilding the gallery. She worked from the villa's library, surrounded by centuries-old books and the smell of lemon trees drifting through the windows. Alessandro was gone most of the time, locked in phone calls and meetings that happened behind closed doors. But every night, he came to her. They would have dinner with Nonna Rosa, who pretended not to notice the tension. Then they would retreat to their room, and Alessandro would hold her like she might disappear. Tell me something good, she said one night, lying in his arms. Tell me something that has nothing to do with fires or threats or family business. Alessandro was quiet for a moment, his fingers tracing patterns on her shoulder. I talked to my architect friend today, the one who designed the restoration of the Medici Chapel. I told him I wanted to design a house, here, on the property, for us. You did? I did. I described exactly what I wanted. A studio for you with perfect northern light, a library with floor-to-ceiling windows, a kitchen big enough for Nonna to teach you all her recipes, bedrooms for the children we will have. His voice softened. A life, Olivia. A real one. Away from everything that has hurt us. Tears slipped down Olivia's cheeks. When can we start building? As soon as I finish what needs to be finished in New York. 2 weeks, maybe 3. Then I am done. I am yours. Completely and only yours. The next morning, Olivia woke to Alessandro's phone ringing. She heard his sharp intake of breath, heard him switch to Italian, heard the anger in his voice. When he ended the call, his face was pale. What happened? They found who set the cameras in your studio, and who sent the emails. He sat on the edge of the bed, running his hands through his hair. It was Marcus. Olivia sat up, shocked. My ex-boyfriend Marcus? He has been working with the Castellanos since before the New Year's party. They approached him, offered him money to get close to you again, to gather information about me through you. Alessandro's jaw clenched. The humiliation at the party was not an accident. He wanted me to react, wanted to expose our marriage. Everything since then, every threat, every fear, it all traces back to him. But why? What does he gain from this? Money. Revenge for you leaving him. The Castellanos promised him a cut of whatever assets they could seize from me if they successfully destabilized my operations. Alessandro's eyes met hers, burning with fury. He sold you out, Olivia. He put you in danger for a paycheck. Olivia felt sick. Marcus had always been selfish, but this was something else entirely. This was evil. Where is he now? In FBI custody. My contacts picked him up an hour ago. He is cooperating, giving them everything he knows about the Castellanos in exchange for a reduced sentence. Alessandro took her hands. This is almost over, Amore. Once the FBI has everything they need from Marcus, they will move on the Castellanos. Coordinated raids, arrests, seizures, everything I have been working toward for the past year. And then we go home. We rebuild your gallery. We start our life together without looking over our shoulders. He pulled her close. I'm sorry it took this long. I'm sorry you had to go through any of this. It's not your fault that Marcus is a terrible person. It is my fault that my life brought terrible people into yours. Olivia pulled back to look at him. Your life also brought you into mine, and I wouldn't trade that for anything. Not even for a gallery that never burned down. That afternoon, Alessandro received the call he had been waiting for. The FBI was moving in 24 hours. Every major Castellano operation in New York would be hit simultaneously. It was over. He found Olivia in the garden with Nonna Rosa, learning to harvest tomatoes. His grandmother took one look at his face and smiled. Good news? The best. It is finished. Nonna Rosa kissed his cheek. Then you can finally be happy. Both of you. She turned to Olivia. Take care of my grandson. He acts tough, but inside, he is soft as fresh mozzarella. Olivia laughed. I will. That night, they celebrated with the entire family. Wine flowed, music played, and for the first time since their wedding, Olivia felt truly free. She danced with Alessandro under the stars, his arms strong around her, his eyes full of promises. I have something to tell you, she said softly. What is it? I'm late. My period. I'm never late. Alessandro froze. Are you saying? I'm saying I might be pregnant. I haven't taken a test yet, but... He kissed her, deep and fierce, lifting her off her feet. When he set her down, his eyes were bright with tears. We are going to be parents? Maybe. Probably. I don't know for sure yet. When can we know for sure? There's a pharmacy in the village. We could go tomorrow. We go now, right now. Olivia laughed. Alessandro, it's almost midnight. I do not care. I need to know if I am going to be a father. They drove to the village, Alessandro's hands shaking on the steering wheel. They found a pharmacy still open and bought 3 different pregnancy tests. Back at the villa, Olivia took all 3 into the bathroom while Alessandro paced outside. 2 minutes felt like 2 years. When she emerged holding all 3 tests, Alessandro's eyes dropped to them. All 3 showed the same result. Positive. He fell to his knees, his arms wrapping around her waist, his face pressed against her stomach. Olivia ran her fingers through his hair, tears streaming down her face. We are having a baby, he whispered. We are having a baby. We are. He looked up at her, his face transformed with joy. I love you. I love you so much I cannot breathe. I love you too. But even as they celebrated, even as they called Nonna Rosa and shared the news, Olivia felt a flutter of fear. They still had to go back to New York. They still had to face whatever came next. And now she was not just protecting herself, she was protecting their child. Was the threat really over? Or was this just the beginning of something even more dangerous? The morning sun streamed through the villa windows as Olivia woke to the sound of Alessandro speaking softly in Italian. She opened her eyes to find him sitting on the edge of the bed, one hand resting gently on her still flat stomach, whispering to their baby. What are you saying? She asked, her voice thick with sleep. He looked up, his eyes soft. I am telling our child about the view from this window, about the vineyards and the olive trees, about how this will be home. He leaned down to kiss her. How are you feeling? Scared, excited, nauseous. She managed to smile. All of the above. Nonna is making you ginger tea. She says it helped when my mother was pregnant with me. His hand traced gentle circles on her stomach. We need to talk about going back to New York. Olivia's stomach tightened, and not from morning sickness. When? The FBI raids happened 3 hours ago. 17 arrests, including the top 3 Castellano leaders. Marcus gave them everything. Bank accounts, shipping routes, payroll records. Alessandro's expression was satisfied. They will be in prison for a very long time. So it's really over? Almost. I need to go back for a few days, handle some final business. But you stay here. With Nonna, with the family. Where you and the baby are safe. No. Olivia sat up. We go together. Olivia. Together, Alessandro. I'm not going to sit here worrying while you walk into potential danger. We're partners, remember? And our baby needs both parents. He looked like he wanted to argue, but finally nodded. Okay, together. But you stay close to James at all times, and the moment anything feels wrong, you leave the city. Deal? Deal. They flew back to New York 2 days later. The city looked the same, but everything felt different. Olivia kept her hand on her stomach during the entire car ride from the airport. A protective gesture she could not seem to stop. Their first stop was the remains of the gallery. Standing in front of the burned-out shell of her dream, Olivia felt tears threaten. The walls were blackened, the windows shattered. Everything she had built was gone. "We will rebuild," Alessandro said firmly. "Better than before, bigger. With security that would make Fort Knox jealous. It won't be the same. No, it will be better. Because you will build it knowing you survived this, knowing you are stronger than anyone who tried to break you." He turned her to face him. "And you will not build it alone. I am going to help you. We are going to create something beautiful together." Sophie appeared from around the corner, her face lighting up when she saw them. "Liv, oh my God, you're back!" She pulled Olivia into a hug, then stepped back, her eyes going to Alessandro. "Mr. Greco, thank you for keeping her safe." "Always," Alessandro said simply. Over coffee at a nearby cafe, Sophie laid out everything she had salvaged. Digital files, contact lists, insurance documentation. She had been working non-stop to preserve what could be preserved. "Most of the artists want to stick with you," Sophie said. "They know this wasn't your fault. And there's already buzz about the reopening. People are calling it the comeback of the year. We don't even have a building yet." "Details," Sophie grinned. "I may have already started looking at potential locations. There's an amazing space in Chelsea, huge windows, exposed brick. Want to see it?" Olivia looked at Alessandro, who nodded. "Let us see it." The space was perfect, 3 times the size of the old gallery, with soaring ceilings and natural light that made Olivia's heart sing. It needed work, but the bones were beautiful. "I want it," she said immediately. "Then it is yours." Alessandro was already on his phone. "I am calling my real estate attorney now." Within an hour, he had made an offer that the building owner could not refuse. Within 3 hours, they owned it. Olivia stood in the middle of the empty space, imagining what it could become, and felt hope bloom in her chest for the first time since the fire. That evening, Alessandro took her to dinner at a small Italian restaurant in the West Village. The owner greeted Alessandro like family, seating them at a private corner table. "I need to tell you something," Alessandro said once they had ordered. "About the business, about what happens next." Olivia's heart raced. "Okay. I met with the families this afternoon, the ones who control the old territories, the ones who remember how things used to be. I told them I am stepping down, completely. No more involvement in their operations, no more favors, no more obligations." How did they take it? Better than expected. I have been preparing them for this for months, putting people in place who can take over my responsibilities. And with the Castellanos gone, there is less pressure, less need for the old ways. He reached across the table for her hand. "I am out, Olivia, truly out. By the end of the month, I will have no ties to anything illegal or questionable. Just legitimate businesses, real estate, restaurants, imports that are actually what the paperwork says." Tears filled her eyes. "You did it. We did it. You gave me a reason to walk away. You gave me a future worth fighting for." He stood and moved around the table, kneeling beside her chair. "Which brings me to something I have been planning." "Alessandro, what are you doing?" From his pocket he pulled out a small velvet box. Inside was a ring that took Olivia's breath away. A massive emerald surrounded by diamonds, set in platinum. It was stunning. "When I asked you to marry me the first time, it was rushed, secret, beautiful, but not what you deserved. So I want to do this properly, in front of witnesses, in a restaurant where everyone can see, with a ring that shows the world how much I love you." He took her hand. "Olivia Greco, will you marry me? Again? In a church with all our friends and family, with your father walking you down the aisle, with vows we say in front of God and everyone. Will you give me the chance to do this right?" Olivia was crying openly now. "Yes. Yes, of course, yes." He slipped the ring onto her finger, and the entire restaurant erupted in applause. She had not even noticed that people were watching, but now she saw them standing, clapping, some wiping away tears of their own. Alessandro pulled her to her feet and kissed her, deep and claiming, not caring who saw. When they finally pulled apart, he was grinning. "I love you, Mrs. Greco, and I am going to spend the rest of my life proving it." The next weeks passed in a blur of happiness. They started renovations on the new gallery. They met with wedding planners for a ceremony in 6 months. They told Olivia's father about the baby, and he cried happy tears while shaking Alessandro's hand and welcoming him to the family. Marcus was sentenced to 15 years in federal prison. The Castellano organization was dismantled completely, and Alessandro officially transferred all his questionable assets to legitimate business partners, walking away clean. One evening, as they sat on their penthouse terrace watching the sunset, Alessandro's phone rang. He looked at the screen and smiled. "It is the architect, the one designing our house in Tuscany." He answered, switching to Italian, his free hand resting on Olivia's small baby bump. She leaned against him, listening to him describe their dream home. 4 bedrooms for the children they would have, a studio where she could paint, a wine cellar where they would age bottles from their own vineyards, a life built on love instead of fear. When he hung up, he pulled her into his lap, his arms wrapping around her. "He says construction can begin next month. The house will be ready by the time the baby is born." "What about New York? The gallery?" "Sophie can manage the gallery. You can fly back for major exhibitions, for artists you want to work with personally. But our home, our real home, will be in Italy, where our children can run through vineyards and learn to make pasta from Nonna and grow up knowing what peace feels like." "That sounds perfect." "It will be. I promise you, amore. Everything from now on will be perfect." 6 months later, Olivia stood in a private garden at the villa, wearing a wedding dress that accommodated her 6-month pregnant belly. Her father stood beside her, tears already streaming down his face. "You look beautiful, sweetheart," he whispered. "Thanks, Dad. This Alessandro, he's a good man. I can see how much he loves you, how much he loves that baby. He is the best man I know." Music began to play, and her father offered his arm. They walked down an aisle lined with flowers from Nonna's garden, past cousins and friends and family from 2 continents. At the end stood Alessandro, looking devastatingly handsome in a dark suit, his eyes locked on her with such love that she felt it in her bones. When her father placed her hand in Alessandro's, she heard him whisper, "Take care of my little girl." "With my life," Alessandro promised. The ceremony was beautiful. They said vows they had written themselves, promises about love and partnership and building a life together. When the priest pronounced them husband and wife, again, Alessandro kissed her like it was the first time, like he had been waiting his whole life for this moment. The reception was a celebration that lasted until dawn. They danced, they laughed, they toasted to new beginnings. Nonna Rosa gave a speech that had everyone crying, talking about how she had prayed for years that Alessandro would find someone who could match his strength and soften his edges. "And God sent him Olivia," she said, raising her glass. "A woman with fire in her heart and steel in her spine. Perfect for my impossible grandson." As the party wound down, Alessandro led Olivia away from the crowd to a quiet corner of the garden. The stars were brilliant overhead, and in the distance she could hear music and laughter. "Happy?" he asked. "So happy I can hardly believe it's real." "It is real. This life, this love, this family we are building, all of it is real." He placed his hand on her belly, feeling their daughter kick. "And it is only the beginning." 3 months later, Olivia gave birth to a baby girl with Alessandro's dark hair and her green eyes. They named her Rosa, after Nonna, and the old woman cried for an hour straight while holding her great-granddaughter. Alessandro was an incredible father. He changed diapers, walked the floor at night, sang Italian lullabies that made even Olivia cry. He approached fatherhood the same way he approached everything, with complete dedication and absolute love. On Rosa's first birthday, they gathered at the newly completed house. It was everything Alessandro had promised. Spacious and beautiful, filled with light and love. Olivia's studio had the perfect northern exposure. The kitchen was big enough for Nonna to teach cooking lessons to anyone who would learn, and the bedrooms were ready for the siblings they planned to give Rosa. That evening, after the party, After Rosa was asleep in her crib, Olivia and Alessandro sat on their terrace overlooking the vineyards they now owned. "Do you ever regret it?" Olivia asked. "Walking away from everything you built in New York?" "Not for a single second. That life, it was never really mine. It was inherited, expected, demanded. But this," he gestured to the house, to the sleeping baby inside, to Olivia beside him. "This is mine. We built this together, and I would choose it 1,000 times over. Even with the morning sickness and the sleepless nights and the terrible diapers, especially with all of that." He pulled her close. "You gave me a family, Olivia. A real one, built on love instead of obligation. You gave me a life worth living. You gave me the same thing. You showed me what it means to be loved completely, to be someone's first choice, always." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the stars appear one by one. In the house behind them, their daughter slept peacefully. In the village below, Nonna Rosa was probably already planning what to cook for tomorrow's dinner. And somewhere in New York, the gallery that bore Olivia's name was thriving under Sophie's management. "I have a confession," Alessandro said softly. "What's that?" "That night at the New Year's party, when I heard Marcus insulting you, I was not planning to reveal our marriage. I had strict instructions for myself. Stay calm, stay controlled, keep our secret. What changed? I looked at you. I saw the way you held your head high even though he was trying to break you. And I realized I did not want to keep you secret for one more second. I wanted the world to know that you chose me, that I was lucky enough to be chosen by you." He turned to face her. "So I broke all my rules. I claimed you in front of everyone, and it was the best decision I ever made, even though it brought all that chaos. Because the chaos led us here, to this perfect moment, to this perfect life." He kissed her softly. "I would walk through fire for you, Olivia. I would face down every threat, fight every battle, sacrifice everything, because you are my everything, and you are mine." Years later, when their children asked how they met, Alessandro would tell them about a woman standing in a cathedral in Florence, looking at art like it held the secrets of the universe. Olivia would add the detail about how he had been so persistent, so charming, that she had said yes to dinner despite her better judgment. They would tell their children about the challenges they faced, about the threats they overcame, about the love that made them stronger than any obstacle. But they would also tell them about the laughter, about dancing at midnight, about building something beautiful from the ashes of what had burned. And when their children were old enough to understand, they would tell them the most important truth of all, that love was not about perfection. It was about choosing each other every single day, through the beautiful moments and the difficult ones. In the end, Olivia Hartford had walked into a cathedral looking for inspiration for an art exhibition. She had walked out having found something infinitely more valuable, a man who would love her fiercely, protect her relentlessly, and build her a life beyond her wildest dreams. And Alessandro Greco, who had spent his life believing he was too dangerous to love, discovered that the right woman could change everything, could make him want to be better, do better, live better. They had started with a secret marriage in Lake Como. They had survived threats and fires and bitter ex-lovers. They had fought and made up and grown stronger together. And now, sitting on a terrace in Tuscany with their daughter sleeping inside and another baby on the way, they had everything they had ever wanted. Not a perfect life, but a real one. Not a fairy tale, but something better. A love story that was completely, beautifully, imperfectly theirs. And it was only the beginning.